Poof. Hello, welcome to the Sweet Sparrow Knits podcast. My name is Julie and you can find me on Ravelry and Instagram as Sweet Sparrow Knits, and you can find my hand-dyed yarn at sweetsparrowyarns.etsy.com. Hello. All right, haven't done this in a while. I'm a little nervous. I don't know why, but I am. Okay, all right, I got my show notes. I'm ready to roll. This is a podcast about knitting, spinning, dyeing yarn, reading, what I'm watching, sewing, pretty much just whatever I'm getting into at the moment. So I do want to start with a quick shop announcement, just to get it kind of out of the way up front, and because I don't want you to miss this if you don't watch to the end, or if you have to break up the podcast into a couple different watching sessions. 2021 Sweet Sparrow Yarns advent calendars are in my shop right now. They include 24 10-gram skeins of all new holiday colors. There's no repeats from previous years, and they are packed into little hand-stamped craft paper envelopes, which I string into a garland, and on the 25th you get a full 100-gram skein of yarn. And there's also little surprises in every day, notions, teas, candies. I actually already picked out some little scissors and measuring tapes for 2021. I just couldn't wait. So if you would like to get an advent calendar, they are in the shop. I hope that everybody's doing okay. Can you believe that we're at like a year of quarantine? I don't hate it. I mean, obviously I hate the reason for it, but I do not mind staying home all the time. Especially now that it is almost spring. It's so close. It's so close. Snow is melting here in Berryville, New York, where I live. We live in a canal keeper's cottage next to the Delaware River, and the snow is melting and the bald eagles are having their mating season, so we see a lot of bald eagle activities. That made it sound more risque than it is. We just see them doing their like courting rituals of flying very close to each other. And one thing that I haven't seen this, but I hope that we see this year. Bald eagles do this thing where they lock talons as part of their mating ritual and then hurtle toward the ground incredibly fast, and then they only break their hold on each other's talons right before they hit the ground. Whatever does it for them, I guess. So I live with my wonderful boyfriend John and our dog Reggie and our cat Bilbo, in case you're a newer viewer. I am wearing my first finished object of the episode. This is the Otra Yoke cardigan by Ellie of Skein Knits, and I had the pleasure of test knitting this sweater for her. It is a gorgeous sweater. It fits beautifully. I knit mine out of Ralma Phenol PT2, and it is the perfect mix of soft and woolly. I know that for some people it can be a little bit rough against the skin. I am very lucky that I don't have that issue because it's one of my favorite yarns to use, and yeah, I'm really happy that I can wear it next to skin with no issues. This is a steeked sweater. It's knit in the round and then cut. I decided to live on the edge, and I actually cut my steek on this sweater with no reinforcement whatsoever. I didn't sew it. I didn't do the crochet reinforcement. I just cut it, and it worked great. And hi, I wanted to show you this cute little detail that I added over my steek. I added some velvet ribbon. Sorry, I'm looking over there. I want to make sure that it's focusing. Oh, no, that's not how that works. Poking on the thing in real life doesn't make the camera focus. Okay, there we go. I really like the combination of a soft, sort of luxurious velvet hidden inside of a kind of rustic wool sweater. I actually have to go get the second finished object because I forgot to bring it down here. And we're back. My second finished object is a sweater that I knit for John. Here it is. John saw a sweater online that he liked, and it was a garter stitch raglan sweater. So that is what I knit for him. This is knit out of a non-superwash worsted base that I didn't end up carrying in my shop. The mill that I buy my undyed yarn from came out with a non-superwash worsted base that I liked a little bit better, but this worked out really well for like a heavy-duty men's sweater that gets worn a lot. And it's in a custom colorway that I based on the picture of the commercial sweater that John really liked. This is the Olivia sweater by Susanna Orthodoxo. I hope that's kind of accurate in pronunciation. This is what I worked on while I was recovering from surgery. Back in November, I had surgery for a deviated septum and enlarged turbinates. Basically, I had a bunch of surgery on my nose for breathing purposes. And afterward, pretty much all I felt capable of knitting was just garter stitch in the round. I did use this project as my first introduction to helical knitting, and that's pretty neat. I had always assumed that that was a lot more complicated than it actually is, and I think it's a really great option for when you're using a yarn that is pretty tonal like this one is. This definitely has highs and lows in the color, and that helped keep the color consistent through the entire body and sleeves of the sweater. This was also my first time doing a seamed raglan sweater. So this is knit from the bottom up, and then you knit the front from the armholes up and the back from the armholes up flat, knit the sleeves separately, and then seam along the raglan seams. And that was actually a lot easier than I anticipated. I haven't mattress stitched anything. Sorry, there's some trucks going by. I haven't mattress stitched anything in 10 years-ish. I mattress stitched my first sweater for myself, and that was knit out of Ella Ray Heathers. It was a worsted weight yarn, very much kind of a stiffer worsted weight, and it's beautiful, but it was maybe not the best choice for that particular sweater. And long story short, I thought that sweaters with mattress seaming would be just too rigid, because I was basing my experience on a sweater where I had really used probably not the right kind of yarn. I should have used something with a little bit more drape. So I just kind of wrote off seamed sweaters for a long time because I didn't want to do mattress stitch and end up with a stiff seam. But the mattress stitch raglan seams came out totally fine, nice and soft, no stiffness. So that opens up a whole new world of sweaters for me now that I know that I don't just hate seamed sweaters. Works in progress. Oh, by the way, I got an external microphone for my DSLR, which I use to record the podcast and Vlogmas. I'm hoping that it improves my audio quality because I was definitely having some like white noise in the background when I was using the internal microphone on my camera. So I hope this helps. My first work in progress is the Tulip Jumper by Melody Hoffman of Bee Mandarines. It's beautiful. I love it. Look at that cute little scalloped hem. Oh, it's so cute. I am knitting this out of Thin Sheep wool pencil roving, which is an unspun yarn, very similar to Plotulopi or Nutiden. It's basically just kind of a matted together yarn, and this particular yarn, when I say yarn, it's really just like fiber, very loosely held together. And this particular brand of this type of yarn has 2 strands wound together, which is really convenient because the pattern calls for 2 strands held together, and it's nice to be able to do that just from one ball. This is I think this is the light gray colorway. I absolutely love it. The pattern calls for the yarn to be held double with mohair, but I decided not to do that. I really loved the color of the yarn as it was, and enough sweaters have been knit with Plotulopi and similar yarns that I felt confident that the yarn would be nice and strong once it was knitted, even though it's a little fragile before it's knitted. All I have left to do is my second sleeve, so I am hoping to finish this in the next few days. It's a cropped sweater, and I based the length off of my Otra cardigan because I find that this sweater is a really good length for me. It is cropped, which works well because I wear mainly dresses, but it's not so cropped that it's not warm. It's, you know, it provides plenty of warmth for my back and my waist. And the sleeves I have knit to a bracelet length, which is right about here. So it's not as short as 3/4, but it doesn't quite make it to the wrist either. And I find that a really practical sleeve length for me because even if I want to be warm, pretty much everything that I enjoy doing for my hobbies and for my job, obviously, requires that I have good use of my hands. And if I'm cooking or gardening or baking, I don't want to be getting my cuffs dirty. So having something that is a little bit higher than the wrist is a really good option for me. I think it will be a really good layering piece as we go into spring. I did move from a slightly warmer climate near New York City, which isn't, you know, it's not hot, but it's definitely warmer than it is here. We moved upstate quite a bit. And our last frost date average is around May 9th. So it definitely stays cold for quite a while into the spring, especially in the mornings and evenings. And I think the tulip jumper will be a really good sort of light jacket replacement for when I want to feel like I can go outside without a jacket, but it's really still too cold. So I think the tulip jumper will be great for that. My next work in progress is the Dust of Snow wrap by Helen Stewart, and I am knitting this out of the Sweet Sparrow Yarns Advent Calendar from 2019. This is how far I've gotten in like a year and a half. It's one of those projects that I feel like I need to be in the mood to work on, because my kind of go-to is just stockinette in the round. But I really enjoy lace knitting, and this is a nice small amount of lace. And I'm holding the Advent colors together with my feather base, which is a mohair and silk in the Pajama Day colorway. So it is a pretty neutral background color with soft pinks and sort of mushroomy pale browns, speckled with some bits of plum. And I'm really pleased with how this looks as kind of a color that binds all of the mini skein colors together. It just gives it that kind of common tone, that slightly pink, slightly muted tone. I'm really enjoying working on this. I don't have a deadline for it. I'm just gonna knit on it when I feel like it. Maybe I will give myself the deadline that it should be done before Advent of 2021. That seems reasonable. Nice little 2-year long project. Yeah, I think that will be my goal. But if it doesn't happen, that's no big deal either. My final work in progress for today is the Pinwheel Scrap Blanket by Mina Phillip. This is another very long-term work in progress. I think I have about 14 of these squares done. Here's my most recent finished square. I have not woven in the ends yet. I should probably do that. I'm not gonna enjoy weaving in hundreds of ends when I'm done with this. Maybe I'll do that next weekend while I'm, I don't know, watching something or other. So this is my most recent finished square, and these are minis from Advent calendars, bits from my leftover projects. This is leftover from my What the Fade shawl. This is leftover from, it's my Clara colorway. What did I use that in? I don't remember, but that's this. This is leftover from a pair of socks that I knit for John. It's just pretty much all of my minis are going into this blanket. I'm trying to kind of alternate in terms of the color's value, so how light or dark it is, just to keep the overall look of the blanket kind of similar, even if the colors are not similar, because I definitely only will have one triangle of a lot of these, because either they're little bits and bobs left from when I do the Advent mini skeins. I sometimes have like 3 or 4 grams left over, or just little bits from projects. So I think having a consistent alternating of lighter and darker colors will give the blanket a cohesiveness when it's done. And you can tell that I am doing the same thing on this block. This is left from a pair of socks that I recently finished, which I actually forgot to bring. I'll show you them next time. They're really cute. This is left from, this was kind of an oops mini skein that I dyed. This is Bulbasaur from the Fawn Knits when she did her Pokemon inspired collection. This green is my Forest Floor colorway, and this one, I don't know what this is. It's very pretty. It looks like it might be from Stacy of Stress Knits, just because it looks like her colors, but I don't know if I have any single ply from her, so I'm not sure honestly, who knows? It could be anything. So that's definitely a long-term project. I probably will have that on the needles for another 1.5 or 2 years. Yeah, it'll get done when it gets done. I'm not stressed about it. I also have a sewing work in progress this episode. That is kind of a mashup. Well, not even a mashup, because and it's kind of an alteration of an existing pattern, which is the dungaree dress from the Robertson collection by Marilla Walker. And the dungaree dress is super cute. It's like a little pinafore style dress. I'll pop in a picture. However, I like a big gathered skirt, which is not news if you've been watching the podcast for any length of time. I like floof, I like gathering. Like if it would be appropriate to wear to a fairy tea party in the woods, I'm in. So with that in mind, I decided to change the shape of the bottom of the dress. It has a waist seam in the front of the dress, but not in the back, which is already a little odd to me. You know, it's fine. It doesn't affect the functionality of the dress. I just prefer, if there's a waist seam in front, I want one in back. So I extended the waist seam to go all the way around the back, and I'm attaching a gathered skirt. So anyway, let me show you. So I am making this out of some Robert Kaufman linen and cotton blend fabric. This is the back piece. These are the straps, which will come around to the front and fasten. They have you use like little metal poppers in the pattern, but I'll probably just use buttons. And the front is just sort of that bib piece, which I haven't used yet. I haven't sewn with that yet. And because this was fabric from my stash and I wanted to get both as much length and as much width for gathering into the skirt piece as I could, I decided to use another fabric for the back facing, and that is this, which is just a cute little cotton fabric with a cute little floral. It doesn't show through the linen, which is great. And I actually made a pinafore dress out of this in high school, so it's kind of coming full circle to use it as a little bit of lining for a pinafore dress now, like 15 years later. And here is my skirt. This is obviously not gathered yet, so it looks a little comical. Here's my skirt piece. I have changed the pockets from like slash pockets to inseam pockets, which I have put on the side seams. Little pocket. I used the pocket pattern and placement from the Hinterland dress because I found that that's a very practical pocket size. I can put my phone in that pocket and it doesn't fall out, and it has plenty of room for my hand if I just feel like having my hands in my pockets. And because of the width of the fabric, I did piece this to get as much width for maximum fullness and maximum gathering as possible. So this is each, okay, so both the front and the back are 1.5 times the width of my fabric, which I think is just like a 45-inch standard fabric. So the front and the back are each divided into 3 panels, which I have seamed. I am serging my seam allowances closed, not for any particular reason, other than that this fabric frays quite a bit, and this will just keep it nice and neat. And I've got my waist serged, so that's ready to go on. And my next step is going to be attaching the button tab to the, I can't remember if it goes on the front or the back. I'll have to look. But attaching the button tab, and then I will be attaching the waist seam for the skirt all the way around, which is pretty different than how the pattern instructions tell you to do it, because there is no waist seam all the way around in the pattern instructions. I'm very much kind of winging it. So this is something that I've actually talked a lot about with my lovely friend Jack, who is Cozy Punk on Instagram and the proprietor of Cabbage Cottage, which is a really adorable small batch slow fashion company. And I've been really inspired by the way that they just kind of enjoy sewing and enjoy making and don't get so caught up on having every little thing be perfect, which for newer viewers, I went to FIT, the Fashion Institute of Technology, for fashion design, which was amazing, but it also instilled in me this hardcore perfectionism about my sewing to the degree that I did not sew for years after college because I felt like it had to be perfect. Or I was somehow not living up to what I should be doing, which is ridiculous. But there you have it. That's how I felt about it. So I've been really rediscovering the joy of sewing because it's enjoyable and because I can make beautiful garments that fit my body perfectly and that fit into my wardrobe really well, and not I've been working on kind of getting past the mindset that it's going to be scrutinized and graded, because it's not. No one's going to be looking at the top stitching inside my pocket bag. Like, no one's looking at that. So that's been really enjoyable. I'm really feeling the love for sewing in a way that I haven't in a very long time. So this is another project that I would really like to finish in the next probably week or so. I'll probably finish it next weekend. I think it will also be really good for layering. I wear these Free People dresses a lot, which you will know if you watch the podcast. I love them, but the lace is not amazing quality. It's just like a cheap polyester lace, and it tends to wear out or tear much sooner than the rest of the dress, and it's because it's a polyester lace, it's hard to mend without just replacing it completely. And I don't really want to replace it with more polyester lace because then I'll have the same thing happen. Maybe I'll try some cotton lace to replace the lace strips in some of them. Anyway, so these will be a really good layering piece under this pinafore dress because you really won't see the front or back of the lace, which is where most of the wear and tear tends to be, because it's very loose on the sides and there's just no real strain on the fabric no matter how I'm moving in it. So I think wearing them layered under a pinafore is a good way to get a lot more use out of them. Oh, I'm having water with lime, and I forgot that I brushed my teeth before I started recording. That was not nice. Ugh. I also have a spinning work in progress. This is some of a loop bump that I bought at Rhinebeck a few years ago. The colorway is called Faith, and it's a lot of like soft mauves, creams, a really soft blush pink that has a little bit of a yellow hint. Just really pretty. And I would love to show you the rest of it, but I can't because it got regged. Our dog Reggie, after weeks of this loop bump being on the coffee table, for some reason one day he decided that he needed to tear it to pieces. I can hardly say it. He really did a number on about half of it. The other half is still, you know, in its loop bump shape, but obviously without the back half of it. The pieces are much shorter, like the lengths of roving are much shorter. It's salvageable. A lot of it is salvageable. I would say maybe 20% of it was just not salvageable at all. It's definitely not as nice of a spinning experience. Because what I enjoy so much about loop bumps is that you can just kind of, the roving just kind of feeds out of the middle because it's a center pull bump, and it's a really meditative, calm experience, and that's definitely not what it is now because I'm having to kind of try to realign fibers, and it's just not, oh, it's not great. But I love the colors, so I'm going to persevere, and I should have enough at least for a color work contrast color, maybe for another ultra. Oh, that was such a bummer. But these things happen. So yeah, I'll be able to salvage a good amount of it and make something out of it. Okay, what I am reading and watching. So I'm getting back into reading after a long time of feeling like I just didn't have time, and I listened pretty strictly to only audiobooks, and I haven't read a paper book in quite some time. But so we got a new mattress, and it is so comfortable. Oh my god, I already can't wait for bed because I love this mattress. It's so cozy, and I just want to spend all the time in it that I can. So I've gotten into the habit of reading in bed for like an hour or so before I go to sleep, and I am currently reading Return to the Secret Garden by Susan Moody. And this is a sequel to The Secret Garden by Frances Hodgson Burnett, though it's clearly not by the same person. It's, I don't want to say it's fan fiction, but I mean, essentially that's what it is. But I'm really enjoying it. It's the characters from The Secret Garden as they get older, during like World War I era. And I think the author did a very good job of keeping the characters true to who they were in the original book, The Secret Garden. Yeah, there's the behavior all feels very in line with their characters as children. It feels authentic to who each of those characters could have grown up to be. I am about 3/8 of the way through, and I dog ear. Do any of you guys dog ear? This is so bad. I used to be a librarian, and I can't believe I dog ear my books, but I do. Anyway, so yeah, I'm a little less than halfway through, and I'm really enjoying it. It's not action-packed by any means. But I like that. I like a slow-paced book. It's a very enjoyable book. As for what I'm watching, my love of cooking shows continues. I finished all of Chopped, that's on Hulu. Yeah, so usually I watch Chopped when I am washing dishes or when I'm cooking, and I've watched it all. So on my brother's recommendation, I started watching Top Chef, and I started from the beginning. I don't love it as much as I love Chopped, just because there's definitely more of an emphasis on it being like a reality TV show series. It started in, I think, 2005 or 2006, and it's definitely of that era in that there's a lot of emphasis on sort of drama between different people in the competition, and there's like the confessional format, where you see like the talking head bad-mouthing somebody else, or it's good, but it's not as wholesome as Chopped. But that hasn't stopped me. Like, I'm still on season 3 of it. I don't know. I don't know if it's for me. I keep waiting for it to make me feel warm and fuzzy the way that Chopped does, and it just isn't happening. So, I don't think it's for me. I am also watching the Chef show, which I haven't watched the movie Chef, but just from watching the first couple episodes of the TV show, I really want to watch the movie, because the TV show is pretty much exactly what I look for in a cooking show. There's a good mix of learning and just watching people who clearly enjoy cooking cook. I think that's the biggest factor for me, and what makes me enjoy a cooking show is if you can tell that the person cooking is just really enjoying it, because that's how I feel about cooking. I love to cook, which is really a surprising thing for me to be saying. Like, if I asked myself 2 years ago if I would love to cook, I would definitely say no, but I was also trying to cook in the same space that I was dyeing, because I was dyeing yarn in my kitchen in my 1-bedroom apartment, and you can kind of either dye yarn or cook on a stove unless you want to spend a ton of time cleaning every day, and most of the time I just didn't cook. But now that my studio stove is over in the studio and our cooking stove is here in the kitchen, I have found that I love to cook. So yeah, it makes me really happy when I watch other people who love to cook. And we also recently finished the 4-part docu-series called Cooked by Michael Pollan, and that was great. I loved that. That definitely did have a little bit more of a science-y side to it. But again, you can tell that Michael Pollan is just really passionate about food and about what he's talking about and what he's learning about. I particularly liked the last episode, the 4th episode, which was about fermentation. And that is a series that I would wholeheartedly recommend. It's great. I think each episode is an hour and a half-ish, which is the perfect amount of time for me at night. John and I watched 1 episode a night for 4 nights in a row because it was just captivating. Usually I talk about my upcoming knitting projects, but I just don't know. I don't know what I'm gonna knit next. I've really been in the mood for just stockinette in the round with minimal shaping. Just very relaxing. February was a really hectic month. I had 2 large wholesale orders go out in February, plus 3 clubs. So it was really busy, and I didn't really feel like using a lot of brain power by the time that I was done for the day and would start my knitting. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure whether I will feel more inclined to work on a more complicated project now that my schedule is getting back to normal a little bit. Oh, actually, speaking of clubs, I did want to show you. So one of the yarn clubs that I do is called the Foraging Club, and it is all inspired by foraged foods and wild edible berries and fungi and plants. And I include for that club a project bag in the 3rd and final month of the club. And here is an example. This one's wrinkly because I use it all the time. But this was from the first round of the club, which was a couple years ago now, I think. And we've got some Queen Anne's lace, raspberries, acorns. What are these? Are they hazelnuts? I don't remember. We've got some chanterelle mushrooms down here. And so I do these bags for every round of the club, and I do the illustrations for these, and then I have the fabric custom printed. And I decided to kind of show a little bit of my process on Instagram, and people seem to really like that, so I am going to save that in a highlight on Instagram to show kind of the stages of sketching for the foraging bags. So I just wanted to show you the first completed sketch for the current round of the Foraging Club, and that is a fiddlehead fern. This was such a joy to draw. I put on the Jan Tiersen radio station on Spotify. He's the composer who did the music to Amelie, which is one of my favorite movie soundtracks of all time. And I worked on this, and it was just such a nice way to spend an afternoon. I've also been doing a lot of gardening, not outside yet because there's still snow on the ground. Not much at this point, thankfully, but there's still some, and our last frost date, like I mentioned, isn't until early May, so it'll be a while before I'm gardening outside. But I have been raising some seedlings inside to transplant once it gets warmer, and I think I will do a separate video showing those to you, because this one is already running quite long. So I will be back soon, and I look forward to sharing my gardening adventures with you. Bye! Whew, I did it! Oh no, it's still recording. I'm so nervous. Why am I so nervous?